Oh, hello! Today is the first day of the end of the year videos here on Books Like Whoa. This is my favorite time of year. I love making end of year videos, and we always start with getting the negativity out of the way. We start with our worst slash most disappointing reads, and this year I guess happily don't have that many to share with you. That's because, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this year was very solid. Like, this feels like a really good 3.5 to 4-star reading year for me, which is good. That means I wasn't reading a ton of stuff I didn't enjoy, but the downside of that is I feel like I maybe didn't take as many risks, didn't have as many highs or lows. So I don't know, but we do have some books that disappointed me for sure, and one book that I would feel confident calling the worst. So let's start with disappointments, and we'll start with, we'll go by rating. How about that? Okay, so first of all, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. I almost said Kennedy, but that's not her name. It's Bridget Knightley. The reason I gave this 3 stars, this was fine, and I might even read the sequel from the library because it's supposed to be a duology, and by the end of the book, things were finally getting interesting, and I actually was like into the plot. But my problem with this book is just that, I don't know, it's pitched as a Hermione fanfic, but de-Harry Pottered, and I'm all for that because, well, insert full video essay about, you know, JKR and her turfery and like reclaiming fan spaces and trying to find the good. Anyway, I was into that as a concept, but I could not have told you that that was the inspiration at all. I was going to it for that kind of fan fiction-y feel, that enemies to lovers, like true enemies to lovers kind of dynamic. And I just felt like if you had told me this was inspired by a popular fandom or ship, I would have guessed more Pride and Prejudice dynamic versus what I thought the inspo was. So it didn't really deliver on what I was hoping to get from it. And then on top of that, I just found it really slow, but not in a like slow burn kind of way, in more of a boring kind of way. And then at the very end, we finally get some interesting plot, and then the book ends. So that's why maybe I would read the sequel to this just to see what happens with that plot. But yeah, this just didn't give me what I was expecting it to, or what it was pitched as doing. Then I'm gonna say, you'll see, if you've watched my most recent vlog, you will see several of the books I'm going to talk about in there, but one of them is A Line to Kill by Anthony Horowitz. I put this in disappointments because I really love the Susan Ryland trilogy. Marble Hall Murders I read this year, and it is my least favorite of the 3, but it was still a solid 4-star, and I just realized I don't like this detective duo. I feel like they have no chemistry with each other, and then individually they're not appealing, made more awkward by the fact that it's a very metatextual story and one of the main characters is Anthony Horowitz. I hope for his sake he is more likable IRL than he is in book form. But yeah, I'm DNFing this whole series. It was a 3-star. It wasn't terrible. It was a mystery set on an island at a book fair. So, you know, it had like pseudo isolation trope, which is something I love. But yeah, this just ended up not being, this series is just not for me. So that's disappointing. And then the other 3-star pick was also in that most recent vlog, and that is Death at the Sign of the Rook by Kate Atkinson. And this is disappointing because I bought this after reading the first chapter, and I really liked the first chapter. It was interesting. Our main character is a recurring detective, but you don't really need to know that. Like, I didn't feel like I was missing anything having picked this series up midway. It seems like it's very episodic. But he used to be in the police force. Now he's a private detective, and he has been hired by these creepy twins to investigate this art theft, and he can tell something more is going on. Meanwhile, the back cover copy talks about this country estate that has been converted into an inn that is doing like murder mystery weekend kind of packages, and says like, oh, they're all snowed in and, you know, they have to figure out who the killer is. So that's what I thought I was getting, and it is basically just a lot of rambly character study of the owner, people around the country estate. That was, I guess, good. Like, it wasn't badly written, it just wasn't what I wanted from a mystery. And then the art theft was very interesting to me, but like we kept cutting away from that. And then the promised murder mystery weekend doesn't take place until like 3/4 of the way through the book. So it just felt like what was promised was not delivered in this book. The promise of the premise was not realized. I would love to read a murder mystery weekend where like that was the whole book or most of the book. That would have been very interesting. And she's a very good writer. So the writing was not the problem at all. It's just what was sold was not what was delivered. And I think if you are like me and coming to this book for a mystery, you will walk away disappointed because that's not really where the energy of the book is. And the rest of these are all either horror or mystery. I am a connoisseur of mystery, so I think I am kind of harsh on them sometimes. So there you go. But let's mix it up. We'll go with a horror in the 2-star range. Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazatarica, I think is her last name. Look, this is a very hyped book. There's a lot of things about the way this book is pitched that should work for me. It's a very direct commentary on, like, it's a very direct metaphor in terms of like dehumanization and women's reproductive role in society, as well as the ethics of meat consumption. So, I like a metaphor. I'm down for that. I just found the writing of this to be very flat in a way that does work for me in short stories, which I believe is this author's background. And I would have been okay. I think if this had been a short story, it could have been a pretty good short story, but there just wasn't enough that I felt like had to say to sustain even a very slight novel. I mean, arguably a novella. This is not very long, and even what is there I feel like is not, like, it's not like she tried to stretch this into a 400-page book and it didn't work. I think this is maybe like 150, 200 pages, and there's not enough for that. Like, pardon the I guess, punnage, but there's just not enough meat on the bone to sustain the length with the authorial voice and the content. Like, it just all felt very like this would have been a good short story, but doesn't work for me in length. I also feel like if you've read any kind of horror or like even just literary fiction, like magical realism or like dystopian literary fiction, I had about 3 hypotheses of where the book was going to go immediately. Like, I'm talking within a couple of pages, and it of course followed one of those hypotheses almost to the T. So it also, I just didn't feel like was very fresh in terms of what it was bringing. So I gave this 2 stars. It's not like the worst thing I've ever read, but it was very overhyped in my opinion. So that's just my perspective. I know a lot of people really love it. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of love for this. So I guess I will be the hater who just, maybe manage your expectations a little bit if you haven't gotten to this one yet, because I feel like probably I also might have liked this more if it hadn't been so hyped. Just food for thought, if you will. Again, another pun. I can't escape them. Okay, then The Retreat by Elizabeth de Marifeta, I believe is the author's name. I might be misremembering that. So this is supposed to be an isolated close circle mystery. And it is, but it's like, it's so dull. I think I get particularly disappointed when isolated close circle mysteries don't work for me, because it is just a trope I love, and therefore it honestly doesn't take that much to please me with those. Like, as long as it's decently engaging, it's gonna get at least a 3-star for me usually. I guess it just says something that it was so dull that I gave it 2 stars. And honestly should have DNF'd it, and would have if I wasn't, I think I was reading that for one of my vlogs. So that's probably why I finished it. And also because like it was a quick read, it wasn't like it took a lot of time, but it's supposed to be at an artist retreat, but Our main character has this history of domestic violence that is a big part of the story, and I thought that was handled pretty clumsily. There wasn't really any attachment or engagement with any of the characters. I don't know, it just was dull and clumsily executed, I think, all around. Which is a bummer, because the idea of an isolation trope with an artist retreat, I think that could have been really fun, and it just wasn't. And then the last in the kind of 2-star range, I'm gonna go with One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. Another one I read recently, and another disappointment. I love Alyssa Cole. I think this might be the only book I've ever given from her less than like 3.5 stars. I really enjoy her writing, her perspective, the kinds of stories she tells. I really enjoy the way she incorporates like social commentary into genre fiction. I think she's like masterful at that. But this one just didn't work for me because it is using dissociative identity disorder as its kind of driver for the mystery. And I need to start looking for that, because I think that's an anti-buzzword for me. I don't really enjoy that. I think it's very hard to do it tastefully. And if it is tastefully done, I also just feel like it is giving me the same kinds of stories that like an amnesia or blackout drinking type trope does, which I also don't understand, which is it's supposed to be purposeful disorientation. The character doesn't necessarily know what's going on and therefore unreliable, so you can't know what's going on for sure. I find that to be just sort of, I mean, cheap might be a little too strong, but a little cheap. Like, it feels to me, like the author kind of wants to have their cake and eat it too with those of like, I want to give you a first person perspective, but I don't want to spoil the mystery. So here's my cheat code. They just don't remember, or they don't know, or in this case, a different one of their personalities was there. So the personalities whose perspective you're in now doesn't know. I just find that to be just kind of ham-fisted, I guess. And even Alyssa Cole, who I love, couldn't really save that for me. I found this to be slow. Our main character's main personality, their ex dies while they're this caretaker at this old house that's like isolated. Another isolation trope, and another one that I found boring, which is a feat for me. And I just found the DID stuff like really distracting and kept me from loving it. I did like its inclusion of like COVID as part of the plot. I would love to see that happening more now that we have some distance from it. But yeah, I just was really, this was maybe my most disappointing one just because I love her so much. I love Alyssa Cole. So I had the highest hopes and was therefore the most crushed when I didn't fully enjoy it. But I gave it 2.5 stars. It's not bad. It just was not for me, and definitely my least favorite book by this author. 2 more, one of which I DNF'd and one of which is bad. I finished in a fit of peak of pure rage. So, the one I DNF'd, and I think I'm moving this author. I've loved one of their books, but they've not really hit it for me since then, so I'm going to move her to be a library author versus a buying author, and that is The Mystery Writer by Sulari Gentle. I really like Sulari Gentle's ideas and kind of projects that she undertakes. Like, her types of plots are for me, and then she often, pretty much always, has some kind of metatextual element, which again is for me. I really enjoy that in a book. This one though, our point of view character was just too stupid to live. I just found her insufferable. I did not want to spend time with her. She was a drip. Dare I say, a wet blanket. She's from Australia, and she's in the US to be with her brother because she's quit law school because she wants to be a mystery writer. And then mysterious things start happening. Is it real? Is it not? Is she making it up? Like, it's that thing. She just, because she's the main point of view, like, we're following her, and I just could not deal with her. So that's why I didn't finish this, because I'm like, I just don't want to be in this person's headspace anymore. So, disappointing. I've loved a book from this author. I've liked 2, and then I DNF this one. So yeah, I think I'm always interested in her books, and I think I should continue to stay interested in them because I believe she can have another big hit for me, but that hit was not this book. Let's just put it that way. Okay, and then the final book, the worst book, the book I did not like and do not recommend, was The Other People by C.B. Everett. I read this as an advanced reader copy because it was, say it with me, an isolated close circle mystery. That is how it is pitched, and I guess I would agree that it is that. This book, I can't tell you, well, I'll tell you the setup is that all these different people are at this remote, I think it's a hotel, but maybe it's an estate. I've read so many this year, it's hard for me to remember, to be honest. But anyway, they're in this remote place and something bad is happening. Is it paranormal? Is it real? Is there a killer among them? They got to figure it out before everyone gets got. I can't tell you what I didn't like about this because it would be a full spoiler. But this book is very closely recreating the plot of a movie that I loved as a child, but have major critiques of as an adult, and I don't think would get made today because it is using a plot device distastefully. And this is so distasteful. The use of this element was so distasteful. But then to add insult to injury, it was boring. It was poorly written, like not well written at all, and dragged. And it's just like, how can you be all things? How can you be bad in every way? And this book somehow managed to, I guess, well, and also I wondered early on if it was doing that. And that's part of the other thing that kept me reading. So I was like, surely not. Surely in the year of our Lord 2025, somebody is not doing this plot again. But they were. And I couldn't believe it. I hated it. It was just bad. I didn't like it at all. No fun was had by me. So, yeah. I guess maybe what I'll do, I'm gonna insert, after I say goodbye to you, I'll insert a clip spoiling it in case people want to know what my problem is. So, I'll say goodbye to you and then come back for a spoiler. But yeah, for those of you who do not want to be spoiled, I'll just go ahead and say goodbye now. So if you like the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. We're in end of the year Listapalooza time. Not as many lists this year because I've just changed how I'm doing some things, but I love end of the year content so much. And I just enjoy making it, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So take care of yourself, your squad, your community, and I will be back soon with another year-end list of some kind. I should be. Okay. Love you, bye. Okay, spoilers for The Other People. It is redoing the Identity movie. It's where they are all secretly having DID, which I couldn't say before because I didn't want to spoil it, but like 2 books in a row this year, I'm like, God, I cannot deal with this. But it's like the secret, ooh, they're crazy. Like, I feel like Alyssa Cole's version of DID it's respectful. I don't like it, but I feel like it is treating the person who has it as a real person with dignity and not as intrinsically dangerous because they have DID. This was just Identity remade shittily in a book. If you want this plot, just go watch Identity. Because while I don't think it should be remade or made today, did I love it as a child? I certainly did, because it actually does this more effective. Maybe that's part of it. I do think that this trope works better in movie because you have different people represented visually and it feels like you're not in their head as directly, so it feels less like a cheat. I don't know. Anyway, so it was disrespectful to the mental disorder that it was portraying, and then it had the gall to also just be like badly written. And it's like, come on, man. If you're gonna be disrespectful or distasteful, at least be entertaining. Okay, thus endeth the spoiler. See you next time.